I'm sorry, I'm still putting the new names together. You are Stephen, right? No. Stephen's down there.
Tomas.
Tomas.
You're Chris, right?
I am. I know, we need our name
Chris,
tags to point
Andrew,
different
JP.
ways. JP, yep. All right. We ready? Okay. Right, and I am calling to order the January 24th, 2024 meeting of the Economic Development and Housing Commission. And let's start with roll call, please.
Commissioner Kim? Here. Commissioner Guerra?
Here.
Commissioner Singh?
Here.
Commissioner Vasquez? Commissioner Cutie?
Here.
Commissioner Rodriguez?
Here.
Chairperson White?
Here.
And then alternate commission member Kemp.
Here.
We have a quorum.
All right, thank you so much. So we are going to jump over to our land acknowledgement and to Commissioner Ernie.
Land acknowledgement. We would like to acknowledge that the land on which we live, work, learn, and commune is the original homelands of the indigenous people of West Sacramento, who have stewarded this land throughout the generations. We acknowledge and we thank the original inhabitants who have occupied, maintained, and secured this place, and who still exist on this land. We respect and celebrate the many diverse indigenous people still connected to this land on which we gather. Thank you.
Thank you. And Commissioner Tomas will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. And at this time, I want to make sure that anybody who would like to address the commission on any agenda item can fill out a request to speak card and present it to the clerk before the completion of the staff presentation. Items on the consent agenda will be considered in one motion, and the request to speak card should be turned in prior to the first item on consent. So with that, do we have any public matters not on the agenda within the jurisdiction of this commission?
There were no comments from the public for this meeting.
Right, and I see we have no presentations. So our next item is the consideration of the approval of the minutes for the November 29th meeting. Hopefully everybody had a chance to read them. Do we have a motion to approve?
This is Commissioner Kim.
Commissioner
Motion
Kim, I
to-
think your mic's not on.
This is Commissioner Kim.
Oh.
Motion to approve our.
There's a button on the side.
Oh, okay.
There it is.
Yes, this is Commissioner Kim. Make a motion to approve the minutes from November 29th.
This is Commissioner Kemp. I second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any questions, clarifications, discussion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, excellent. We are moving on to number 3, our public hearing to announce the availability of our 2024 Community Development Block Grant, CDBG, with the famous Isaiah Alford presenting.
Isaiah, I don't think your mic is on. I think there's a button you have to
It's a
click.
little silver button down at the base of the black part of the mic.
Thanks, Tanya.
Thank you.
Hey, it's the first meeting of the year. We all get to do it once.
Okay, I'm gonna start all over. Good evening, Chairperson Kim and members of the Commission. My name is Isaiah Alford. I am the Community Investment Planner in the Economic Development and Housing Department. The purpose of this presentation is to announce the 2024 funding, the availability After the presentation, staff requests the commission to open a public hearing to take any comments, and upon closing the public hearing, staff requests the commission to provide comments regarding the goals of the 2024 CDBG funding. In 2016, the city of West Sacramento became an entitlement jurisdiction, which enabled the city to receive funding from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. A requirement of the CDBG program is to develop a consolidated plan, which must occur every 5 years. The 5-year consolidated plan must examine the needs of low-income residents and neighborhoods. CDBG funds must be used to address one of 3 national objectives. The city must develop an annual action plan, which allocates CDBG funds for activities to achieve goals of the 5-year consolidated plan. National objectives were used to establish goals of the current consolidated plan. The first national objective benefits low and moderate income households. The second is the prevention or elimination of slums and blights. The third national objective is an urgent need, which is something unexpected. It is important to note that 70% of the jurisdiction's allocation must be used to benefit low-income residents and households. The CDBG program is a strict funding source, but allows entitlement jurisdictions to use the money for a wide range of activities. These activities can be acquisition and rehab of public facilities and public infrastructure, acquisition and rehab of affordable housing. Economic development activities are also eligible under the CDBG program. Activities can also include homeless, senior, and youth programs. Any service activities are capped at 15% of the total allocation of any given year. So here's the current 5-year consolidated plan, which was approved by City Council in April 2021. There's a total of 6 goals. Goal number 1 addresses homelessness, which has been a key focus of the council strategic plan for the past couple of years. Goal number 2 addresses homelessness by creating housing opportunities. Goal number 3 is to provide infrastructure improvements in neighborhoods suffering from disinvestment. Goal number 4 is to provide fair housing, education, and counseling services to low and moderate income residents and landlords. Goal number 5 is to support small businesses by strengthening economic opportunities for small businesses and employment. And goal number 6 is the preservation of affordable housing stock to provide housing rehab funding for single-family units. These goals represent the needs that were identified during the consolidated plan process. However, not all goals were achieved nor funded with CDBG funds solely. So here are some projects that were funded with CDBG funds. The picture on the screen is the permanent supportive housing project. For 2017 and 2018, CDBG allocations were used to support the development of an 85-unit permanent supportive housing project that specifically target homeless individuals or those at risk of chronic homelessness. In 2016 and 2022, CDBG allocations were used for the North Riverwalk Trail Extension project. These funds were used for the design improvements to a section of the Riverwalk Trail which connects to Ice Street Bridge and provide ADA accessibility. With the 2020 and 2022 and the 2023 annual allocation, we used funds for the Washington and Broderick Lighting and Safety Project. The purpose of this project was to improve pedestrian safety and visibility by replacing and updating streetlights and traffic signals throughout Washington and Broderick neighborhoods, specifically in Census Tract 101.01. Fair housing services have been funded $21,000 every year of the current consolidated plan. And Home Key supportive services at the former Roadway Inn, located at 817 West Capitol Ave, primarily serves the homeless population for case management services. So how are activities selected? Not all eligible projects are good uses for CDBG funds due to federal regulations and requirements. Staff attempts to be strategic and use these CDBG funds on projects that are ready to move forward and will not expend an undue amount to meet federal requirements. We use CDBG funds to leverage other state, private, and federal funding sources. So the city anticipates applying for the Section 108 loan program. This loan program enables entitlement jurisdictions to use and borrow up to 5 times the amount of their annual allocation. So the city is eligible to receive up to $2.5 million. Eligible activities can be economic development projects, housing projects, public facility, and infrastructure projects. Staff recommends funding the ENF Street Frontage Improvement Project. This project is estimated to be over $2 million. The objective of this project is to improve pedestrian safety and accessibility along the south side of E Street and both sides of F Street between 5th and 6th Street. This project is located in Census Tract 101.01, and this census tract is the only low-income census tract in West Sacramento, so it's easily justifiable. And also on the image that's presented, there's 3 affordable housing projects that could benefit those residents. So this project, as the commission may recall, this project was originally funded in 2019, 2020, and 2021. We had to reallocate 2020 and 2021 funding because there was a delay with the environmental review. So we anticipate, as of today, we anticipate the environmental review to be completed in April 2024. And if that's completed, construction will begin in July for this project, assuming the approval of the Section 108 program. So HUD has not announced the CDBG allocations for the 2024 year, but it's likely that the city will receive $518,743, similar, which was the previous year's allocation amount. So here is the 2024 annual action plan and the process. The first steps of the 2024 annual action plan is to hold presentations before the EDH Commission as well as the Parks Commission. With any comments and recommendations that we receive from both commissions, we plan on developing the 2024 annual action plan draft and making that draft available for public comment period for 30 days. Any comments that we receive will be implemented within the 2024 annual action plan. And staff plans on presenting before the city council for a workshop. Then any comments we receive, we will implement that in the May public hearing meeting with the final draft. So this concludes my presentation. Staff requests that the commission open a public hearing to take any comments. And upon closing the public hearing, staff requests the commission to prioritize the goals of the 2024 annual action plan or 2024 CDBG funding. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Isaiah. And with that, I'm going to open the hearing for public comment, which includes comments and questions from our commissioners and the folks sitting out in the audience. So we'll first go to questions or comments from our commissioners.
I have a question. Just to clarify, the proposal is to use these funds for the infrastructure on E and F Street. And when you say infrastructure, is that all streets and sidewalks? Can you just give a little bit more detail about what the infrastructure consists of?
Yeah, so this project would only be infrastructure improvements to the E and F Street. It's the yellow dotted line on the map. This will improve the actual sidewalks because the sidewalks are disconnected. It will allow for residents to have safe walkability. There's also improvement for those residents to reach transportation with a bus stop that's nearby. I believe there's going to be traffic signals included as well. And yeah, it benefits, it meets the national objective, the first national objective benefiting low-income residents with those 3 affordable housing sites. Yes,
And so the 3 affordable housing sites are the Westwood Vistas, the Washington Courtyard, and the East Yolo Manor.
correct.
Those already exist, and what's the current status of that box around the yellow dots?
The dirt lot?
Yeah, the dirt lot.
Road, yeah,
Yeah, I can elaborate on that. So we're not aware of any proposals, any development proposals on the lot that's privately owned.
Okay.
It will eventually be developed. And just to elaborate on your question, so currently there are no sidewalks on the north side of East Street and on the south side of F Street. It's just dirt. So the improvements will include actual construction of the sidewalk on both sides of E and F, because what we are attempting to do is to continue the improvements that have already been done on the other side of the street that were done a few years ago. So it'll include full redo of the sidewalks that are already there, construction of sidewalks where there currently don't exist, additional lighting to make it safer for people to walk, ADA improvements. There'll be planters as well to make it more walkable. And as Isaiah noted, there'll be a couple of street lights that will be included as part of the improvements on the corner of E and 5th Street, I believe. And then again, in terms of the vacant lot that is privately owned, we're not aware of any current development proposals, but eventually that site will be developed. One of the reasons why this project has been delayed for so long is because of the environmental review. My sense is that whatever development happens there will also have to deal with the environmental issues that we've had to deal with. Specifically, native cultural resources were found, identified, so we had to redo the design of the sidewalks so that we could limit any damage or any alteration of the cultural resources that were found. Staff and the consultant has been working with the State Historic Preservation Office, with the Yochadehe tribe to come up with a management plan. And that's why we're now moving forward with this, proposing to refund this.
Thank you.
I have a question. So the F Street is all developed on the rest of the area that has, like between 6th and 7th and the east side? Because I mean, the rest part of the F Street, they have the sidewalk improved already.
Correct. Yeah, so as you're heading east,
Yeah.
there was a major construction project that was done. It was completed about 5 years ago, if I remember correctly. And that included sidewalk improvements, pedestrian improvements, a lot of beautification, wayfinding signs. I don't know if you recall, but one of the streets, and I believe it's East Street, on a section between 4th and 5th, on the sidewalk, there's a poem. There was a contest to select a poem. So as you're walking towards the river on 4th Street, on East Street towards the river, you can read the poem. So that was part of the improvements that were done. We're trying to mimic what was already done on, both E and F between 5th and 6th. Unfortunately, it won't be able to be exactly the same because of the cultural resources that were found. Again, we had to redesign the improvements to make sure that those cultural resources were not affected. So they're going to be slightly different, but as to the extent possible, we're going to be continuing those improvements onto this.
So technically, we can qualify these funds as a low-income housing or whatever for the improvement of the sidewalk. But is there a city funds or other funds available to improve the sidewalk? Because there's nothing going to actual housing, the percentage of the funds that we are receiving.
Yeah, so currently, we haven't been able to identify any additional funds to complete this particular project of just the sidewalk improvements, the lighting, the ADA modifications. And while you're right, it doesn't directly support an existing or a new development project. It does benefit, especially those 3 affordable housing projects already that have been already built. If you go, to that area, you'll see that there's a lot of foot traffic back and forth, and people have to walk on the street because there are no sidewalks on, over 50% of that section. So it does benefit those low-income households that live in that adjacent area. And, that's one of the reasons why we decided to focus on that improvement.
Thank you. And the last question is, on the loan program, we got 5 times the annual entitlement grant. So the entitlement grant is 50,000, that's we are getting 250?
No, so the usual allocation is around 500,000. I think last year it was 517,000. So we would be eligible to apply for up to 2.5 million.
Because I thought I heard 50, 500,000.
Yeah, so 500,000 is our annual allocation, and we can borrow up to 5 times that.
Oh.
So that's why, we can get up to 2.5 million in the loan program.
Thank you.
In the project, the total cost of the estimated cost to fully complete the project is about 2.2 million. So it's kind of a perfect allocation to use for the completion of that project, especially because we have already allocated funding in the past. Right, we've already allocated prior CDBG funds for the design of the improvement. So now we're just trying to finish the actual improvement.
I have a question. So this project, is the public going to be able to see any competing projects, or has the city decided this is the project that we're proposing?
So that's the purpose of today, right, for the public to provide their input on any other proposals that they may want us to consider. This is the first step in the creation of the 2024 Annual Action Plan. In a couple of weeks, we're going to be giving a very similar presentation at the Parks Commission, and the Parks Commissioners will be able to weigh in on our recommendations and any other recommendations that they may have. Once we complete those 2 presentations, Isaiah will be working on completing the draft annual action plan. That draft annual action plan will be put out for public comment for a 30-day period. So the public will also have an opportunity to submit comments on whether they agree on our proposal, or if they have other proposals that they want us to consider. They have a 30-day review period. Within that 30-day review period, staff will be going to the City Council in a workshop format to basically provide the same presentation, let the council know what staff is proposing so that we can hear back from the council to see if they are in agreement. We will let them know what we heard from this commission, from the Parks Commission, and any comments so far that we have received. With all of those comments, then we will finalize the annual action plan, and then staff will be taking the final draft for formal approval approximately in May. And once that gets approved, it'll be sent to HUD for final review and then final certification.
Okay. Well, I think I would like to just formally be on the record saying that I would love to see some other project. I feel some hesitancy from the commission around spending $2.2 million on sidewalks for a block that's empty. I see where you're coming from. The surrounding neighborhood will benefit because there's a safe place to walk sidewalk. But I saw some demographic information in the 5-year plan that shows about 20% of city's population is acute, low, very low income. And I think $2.2 million could be used to perhaps take some preventative measures for homelessness. I was reading that one of the city's concerns is youth homelessness and foster children transitioning to adulthood. And just as an example, that being a risk. Can the city maybe create a program where they help homelessness as well as low income, as well as small businesses where maybe opportunities are created for youth to work in small businesses, and that's income subsidized by the city. I don't know, just something. But I just want to be on the record saying that I would love to see some other proposal.
Thank you.
I have two completely unrelated questions. So if we put all $517,000 toward the sidewalk, what happens to the fair housing program and to the supportive services over at the roadway?
So the fair housing program is being funded out of the general admin and planning portion of the allocation. So that's going to continually be funded. And I want to make sure I'm answering your second question.
So go to your funding slide, if you would, please. Oops. No. Oh, this one. Okay. So planning and administration. So the fair housing, the $24,000 or whatever it is that we pay them would come out of that 20%.
Yes, and then we wouldn't.
And then for the Mercy Coalition to provide the services over at roadway, does that come out of that portion as well? So we wouldn't throw away those two supportive programs.
No, those would be activities that's included within the annual allocation.
Okay. So where you say plus estimated program income receipts,
Yeah.
that is just money coming back into the pot that can be, so you would be talking about putting the $414,000 toward the sidewalk.
Correct. With the approval of the Section 108 program, I will be putting the total amount into that, the total amount of $2.5 million into the project. But that loan can be repaid over a course of 20 years. And we will still have those majority of the funding towards the ENF Street project. So for example, there will be approximately 65 to 70% of the allocation for that annual year. And the rest of the funding would be towards the supportive case management services at the roadway end to address homelessness, and the remaining amount would be planning and administration.
Yeah, well, you gave me the perfect segue into my next question, which was about that Section 108 program. So it's a 20-year payback.
Yeah.
Is it no interest, low interest, interest forgiven?
The interest rate is, it has a range from 2.5 to 3.6 on a year-to-year basis.
Okay, as long as we're not paying 8. And then I'm planning ahead too, because part of, as we've talked about this ENF project over the year too, is to help make that parcel more attractive for development. That part of the reason that they won't develop is they can't pay the $2.5 million to put a sidewalk in there, and some of the other upgrades. So could we recoup some of this money, this $2.5 million from later down the road from development fees? Because we've also talked about changing our development fees, and we wouldn't be collecting as much.
That's a great question. I'll have to do additional research to get back to you on that one.
More math for Isaiah. Yeah.
That's fine.
Commissioner, if I can kind of elaborate on the question of the case management or supportive services at the roadway inside. So yeah, the plan is that we will continue to fund the maximum that we can for supportive services. If you recall, Isaiah mentioned that we can only fund up to 15% of our total allocation towards services.
Yep.
And, case management support is part of that. 15% cap that we have. So we will continue to do that. But we also have other funding sources that we have for the case management support, both at the roadway inside and at the Flamingo site, which are two emergency homeless housing programs that we have. We've received emergency solution grant funding from Yolo County for supportive services. We've also received housing, it's HAP3, and let me see if I can remember what that acronym stands for. I believe it's Housing the Homeless Assistance Program. That also covers a portion of the supportive services and operations. The city, as commissioners may already know, was designated as a pro-housing city by the state of California. And because of that designation, last year we were able to apply to the pro-housing pilot program that the state put out. And we were awarded just under $1 million for pro-housing activities. The city council approved that funding to go towards the operation and case management of the roadway in site. So we do have other funding
Excellent.
to support, the operations and the case management, and obviously case management is a very important aspect of those programs. So we are aware that again, that's very important, and we're making sure that we have sufficient funding. So it's a combination. CDBG is not the only source that is paying for the supportive services. It's certainly an important portion of the funds, but we do have other funding from state and federal funding that we've been able to get for the supportive services.
Thank you so much. One of the things I always appreciate about you all in this room and our other city staff is how challenging it is to juggle limited funds with today's needs and what we need to build for tomorrow. And I think that city staff has always done an excellent job of balancing that. We've certainly seen a lot of other cities that fall for one and don't do the other, and how that lands them into budget problems and growth problems. And I think you guys just do a great job of balancing them. So I have one other unrelated question, and then I will let somebody else speak. You showed us the map and that the funds have to be designated to this one area that is low income. For many of the new government programs, they're using the CJUST map, the environmental justice map. Are you seeing HUD start to get on board with the rest of the federal government?
I haven't seen that, and I just want to be clear that census tract that we showed, we could use projects for all over the city of West Sacramento, but it's limited on justifying those projects.
Yeah.
Since that is identified as the only low-income census tract, it's justifiable that we can use on activities for CDBG funds. Yeah, answer your question.
Yeah, it does. Thank you. Yep. Other questions? Sorry to dominate there for a minute.
Yeah, question and I guess a comment too. I'll start off with the comment. So I was looking at the map to really get a sense of where exactly this is, and I'm realizing I think the bus stop is actually on the west side of it. It's not even on the east side of the the sidewalk improvements. And also, the idea of like public sector funds being utilized to improve private developer land or private landlord land, because I imagine with the sidewalk that actually appreciates the value of that property. And so I am very curious if there's a way for that to be recouped on the back end, including maybe they get less reduction on their development fees because literally they got a free sidewalk from taxpayer funds. But one of the things when I think about as climate transportation or infrastructure planning, a big thing I believe is walkability to the downtown. And I know on the southern side of the 80 freeway, the city has made major efforts in being able to walk from, the Bridge District to downtown, and hopefully now even farther. I mean, my ultimate goal is from like the Bridgeway Lakes, walk all the way to downtown. I don't know if that's ever going to happen, but like being able to walk around. And I know on the north side, you know, especially in areas where it is low income community folks, I think that walkability is important on a climate perspective, potentially, like you said, environmental justice framework, that kind of infrastructure for this exact community neighborhood could, you know, check those boxes. With that all being said, I'm going to actually go to Commissioner Tomas's question. Like, has the staff considered other projects that also check the box when it comes to the national objectives, and also check the box in being able to leverage other existing funds? So yeah, the question again, are there other projects, but other projects that could also, you know, check all of the boxes you need for this Section 108 funding?
Yes, there are other projects. We're currently working on the Washington and Broderick and Lighting and Safety Project, which is installing street lights all through the Census Tract 101.01. That's anticipated to be completed in April 2024. For this Section 108 program, the main reason why we're trying to complete this program is because we already expended funds for this program. We spent over $307,638 on this project already for design. So we're trying to complete it, and it's a part of the Washington District. Thank you. Washington District Realized. Those are part of that report to get this investment areas improved. So that's why we focus on this project. I will have to consult with Raul and see if he has any additional comments on your question, but that's the main reason why we're applying for this Section 108 program, because it's close to being complete. The environmental review is close to being completed. And the only funding source for this project is CDBG. So it doesn't have any other funding source to complete the project.
Yeah, and I can elaborate on that. And that's a good point, Commissioner Kim, that you bring up. You know, typically we do look at our limited CDBG funds to be leveraged with other projects. We've done that, for example, with the Permanent Supportive Housing Project. Right, we allocated 2 years of our CDBG funding, approximately 1.5 million, and that you know, leveraged almost a $30 million project. We've done the same with West Gateway Place Phase 1. We allocated some CDBG funds for that. So we do try to do that as much as possible. That's not always, you know, unfortunately possible. And, you know, as we've noted, a couple of main reasons why we are recommending that we fund this project. One is because we had previously funded the project 2016, I think 2019, 2020 is what Isaiah mentioned. We had to reallocate 2 years worth of funding because of the delays in the environmental review. But the project was still being designed, right? We've already spent a significant amount of our limited CDBG funds for a project that was identified in that Washington Realized document that called for improvement in this area. So we want to make sure that we follow through on the improvements that were noted in that Washington Realized documents and in a project that we have already expended CDBG funds. You know, obviously we will take your comments into consideration, and we will note that in our report to the Parks Commission and the City Council. But those are the main reasons why we have focused on completing this E&F Street project, and we haven't really looked at other potential projects that may be out there to fund, you know, use our CDBG fund.
Thank you for that response. And I guess my comment, generally speaking, when I think about how I've commented on projects just in the Washington area, is I'm for it. I believe there's been a lot of investment on the south side, and I think any investment on the north side, including infrastructure, will just improve not just the neighborhood safety, but the value of the Washington area. And I think more connectability to the downtown is just a win for all parties involved, both on a climate perspective and also for the neighbors who live.
Any other comments?
Yeah, to further Commissioner Kim's point about recouping any funds or whatever from development of the dirt lot, if you can figure out some ways and means and suggest next meeting or some comments where it can be done to minimize or get some funds there. And also on can you bring this slide for the funds allocation? Oh, okay. So the 15% that service fee you're talking about, that's out of 414,000?
The 15% is on the total amount of CDBG that we have available. So,
2.5 million?
well, no, because we would be looking at the 2.5 or up to 2.5 to just fund the E&F Street project. So when we're talking about a maximum of 15%, we're talking more on the 664,000 that we anticipate having available. With CDBG, you're capped at 15% for any service activity. So again, any youth programs, any case management for homeless, anything related to that type of service program for the community is going to be capped at 15% of our total allocation and any monies that come in. So
Yeah,
it would
so
be-
to answer my question is $664,994.
Mhm.
The 15% of that can be spent.
Exactly.
But the total, by getting the loan of 2.5 million, the total kitty will be 2.5 plus 64,000, right?
So the 2.5 million comes
The loan.
by the fact exactly that we will be allocated approximately 518,000 by HUD,
Yeah.
and we can borrow up to 5 times that amount.
No, I
the
understand.
518, yeah.
So the total fund available will be 2.5 million plus 664, right?
Assuming that we get the Section 108 loan, yeah.
Yeah.
Correct.
But technically, we can draw 15% of 2.5 plus 664 or not?
Technically,
Because
yes.
that's the total.
Yes, you're correct. Correct. But although, yes, so technically, we could also use 15% of
Of the
that
total.
2.5 million for services.
So I'm just trying to get at how you can manipulate the language of the funds, and we can draw 15% of the total. And other funds you mentioned about it from Yolo County or state can be used for whatever the other options we have for those.
Sure. I understand what you're saying, yeah. Yeah, and again, the reason why we did not recommend doing that is because we're looking to repay that loan as soon as possible.
No, that's
Right, because
fine. I'm
we're-
just trying to understand how we are doing the sidewalk development under the housing, because technically you can allocate fund differently. So the service fund can be tapped into for the 2.5 plus 64.
Correct.
Thank you.
I just have two quick comments. One, so what I'm hearing is, and I'm probably oversimplifying it, but we started a project years ago and we have a chance to complete it, and we want to complete it before we start another project.
Correct.
And so we don't lose the investment we've already made in this area.
That is correct.
And then the other thing is, I mean, I'm sure all of us and the public can come up with a ton of good ideas to spend 2.5 million on youth and homeless and low income. I mean, those are all noble causes, but you can't do them all at the same time. And we've got an opportunity to finish a project that we've started and have significant investment in, and we want to finish it. That's what I'm hearing.
That is correct.
Exactly.
And it'll make the block more shovel ready.
Correct, yeah, and, that's, you've probably heard that there's always challenges in developing any site. It's especially challenging to develop infill sites
Mhm.
for many reasons. right? So getting a project off the ground in areas like the Bridge District in Washington is very complicated for, because of cultural resources, because of the environmental review, because of some of the items that you don't find in greenfield areas like Southport, right? So I believe Commissioner Commissioner White, I'm sorry, brought the point that it is also a benefit to the community to get these sites shovel ready so that it's a lot easier for those sites to be developed, right? If we do make the improvements, the possibility of attracting a developer to actually build additional housing, it probably increases. So we are making an investment in that neighborhood, in that community. Whether we can recuperate some of that investment through fees, I don't know. That's something that I will have to check with our planning division staff to see if that's a possibility. But it is something that we've done in the past. The Bridge District is a perfect example, right? The city applied for and received a $22 million grant from Prop 1C in the mid-2000s to do a lot of the infrastructure improvements in the Bridge District. All of the roads, the sidewalk, the streets were all put in place ahead of any of the development. And we had to do that because we understand that it's very difficult to develop in those infill sites. So that is part of what, our local city government does, is get those get those sites shoveled so that we can actually make project happen.
And on top of that, so that's for the development, but there are people that live there right now.
Correct.
And you don't realize how much you appreciate sidewalks unless you don't have them.
Correct.
And it does wonders for a community to have people out walking and talking to each other and looking out for each other, and sidewalks help do that.
Question. I know I could look this up, but do we know who owns that plot of land?
Not off the top of my head.
It's not Mark Friedman, is it?
No, it is not Mark Friedman.
Okay, let's just start there. Yeah.
I know that for a fact. It's not Mark Friedman, but I can't recall off the top of my head who owns that site. But I can get that information for the commission.
So with that, I want to paraphrase two things that I think we heard from commissioners that maybe should go into your presentation for the next groups. And the first is a little bit more on why you chose this E&F property. Already spent money, some other things, to just show that there was a little due diligence there. And that would be helpful. I was here when we put E&F on the list like 10 years ago. So it'd be helpful for the folks who weren't here then. And the other is on this particular slide, I have to say the math is, as JP pointed out, I'm going to use a different word, a little confusing, is to say that we would, if we got this grant, we would have just over $3 million. Mm-hmm. And part of this money could still go to other things. So that's just a little, if we maybe put another line on there and show the total that could go to the sidewalk and what part of it could still go to supportive services, that might be helpful too.
Yeah, definitely. We can make some modifications to the slide. That's why we have these meetings, these public meetings, so that we can get that type of feedback. As staff, we work with this almost on a daily basis. So to us, it's like, of course they know that, right? But we forget that that's not the case. So thank you very much for those comments. We can certainly make some modifications and try to make it a little bit more.
Okay, and I have now a procedural question. We are not typically a decision-making board, commission, and it says approve the application for the Section 108 program. Are
Correct.
we doing that, or are we recommending you take that to council?
Recommending that we take it to council.
Okay.
And I'm sorry, I can make modifications to this slide, but it was in, it's in italic because it's pending approval from.
I totally get that. You don't want to put a number on there that says, look, makes it look like we won. So that is not me telling you to do it. It is just some feedback that I heard from this group.
I have another suggestion. If we can get this print of this slide or email to us, so we are better prepared for the question, or we have some numbers. Now we have to go back and forth and a little bit too confusing or cumbersome.
Yeah, we can certainly do that and try to get to the, often we're working on these PowerPoints,
Last
at
minute.
5 o'clock, 5:30, but, to the extent that we can
Or
certainly
have a
make
printout
these.
of it, maybe a printout so we can just.
Certainly, yeah, we can.
I think also to Chairperson White's point regarding paying the loan back, that would be helpful. 20-year period.
Low
2%
interest rate, yeah.
interest rate. That was one of my concerns when I first saw the proposal that Nuvi sent out, was this 2.5 million in addition that we'll be getting in as a loan. How will it affect the future CDBG loans? Will they be gone because we need to pay this back?
No,
So that was just a suggestion, more information. How will it affect the city and these programs?
Yeah, we can certainly do that.
Okay, if there are no more comments, I believe we need a motion, if you are so moved to do so, that we would approve them taking the application of the Section 105 program to council.
I'd like to motion that we take this motion to council.
I second it.
Okay, it was moved by Commissioner Rodriguez and seconded by Commissioner Singh. So all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, that motion carries. You can take this to council. And at that, I believe that we close the public hearing, and thank you so much, Isaiah.
thank you all.
Thank you.
And this is not the last time that we're ever going to talk about CDBG. All right, we are moving on to our regular agenda, and it kind of surprised me to see this on here when you sent it out. I'm like, really, already? And then I realized that it is the start of a new year. So we need to select a new chairperson and a vice chairperson, or reappoint the existing ones. And so I need someone to make a motion for a chair and or vice chair. And you're allowed to move for yourself.
We doing both at the same time or one at
It
a
is
time?
your choice.
Well, if I make a motion that we reappoint our current chair and vice chair.
I second.
that.
Do the chair and vice chair accept their reappointment, or do they want to take a year off?
I accept.
I accept too, because I love the gavel. All right, so it was moved by Commissioner Guerrera, and I missed the second. Commissioner Kemp. See, I can't even see you down there. So just a reminder to say your name when you do your move in second, because that helps them on the other end. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any objection? Motion carries. And now our final and most important item. Consideration of the meeting date calendar for the rest of the year. And I did not print that out, so, oh, is it attached here? No. So, Nuvi, you're going to have to tell us the dates.
Okay, let me pull it
Please.
up. Okay, so for the setting the time and date for regular meetings of the commission for January 24th, 2024 through January 22nd, 2025, are as follows. So January 24th, 2024 today, and then March 27th, 2024, May 22nd, 2024, July 24th, 2024, September 25th, 2024, December 4th, 2024, and January 22nd, 2025.
Right, any questions or comments from anybody? All right, we need a motion to accept the approval of the commission meeting calendar.
Commissioner Rodriguez motions to accept the proposed calendar dates.
Commissioner Singh, seconded.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? We're going to assume that there are no abstentions to that one. I would like to make a suggestion that in our next meeting, we have plenty of space up here and maybe we can all sit up here. Yeah, because I can't even see Commissioner Kemp. Literally can't see him because of the table there. So, yeah, we have plenty of space. We share mics over at the Yolo County meeting. And sometimes we have to lean across each other because half their mics don't work. So, yeah, we can share. All right, over to our final item, which is our director's report.
Thank you, Commissioner White and commissioners. Unfortunately, Tracy was not able to be here tonight. She had a family emergency. But I do have a few items that I do want to share with the commission. The first item is just letting the commissioners know that last Friday, January 19th, the request for proposals for the redevelopment of the Club Pheasant property was made available to the public. As the commission may recall, the city partnered with Turton Commercial Real Estate for the marketing of the property, and the deadline to submit proposals is March 29th, 2024. There is a website where interested parties, developers, individuals can go to get additional information on the process and what is required. And that's on the Turton Commercial website, which is turtoncom.com. You'll be able to find additional information. The other informational item is that today was the point in time count. For those of you who may not be aware, the point in time count is done every 2 years, and think of it as a census for homeless individuals. It's down countywide, and the numbers that come out of that point in time count are used by HUD to allocate a lot of the funding that's specifically targeted for homeless project and homeless service. We anticipate the actual report that is put together by Yolo County in the next month or two. And when that report becomes available, we will make it available to the well. The last item that I wanted to share are we've had a lot of staff changes in our department over the last few months. You may recall Elijah Ortega. He was our one of our community investment staff in the housing division. Elijah transitioned to the planning department, so he's now one of their planners. And fortunately, we were able to get Tanya Flores, who's in the audience today, to replace Elijah. So Tanya has been doing a great job filling Elijah's position. She started back in November, I believe. So she's been with us for a couple of months and learning fast. In the future, you'll see Tanya presenting probably on CDBG and other items related to our housing activities. Another important change that we have is Newbie. Newbie transitioned from our EDH secretary to an admin analyst in our parking division. So we're very happy for Newbie. She's gracious enough to continue to clerk our meetings and do some of the clerical work until we hire a replacement secretary. So I believe that interviews are being held next week for that. So hopefully we'll have somebody in the next few weeks so that Newbie can concentrate 100% on her new duties as an admin analyst in parking. Another staff update, some of you may know Megan Stiles. Megan Stiles was a program manager in the port and city manager's office. Megan was hired to replace the vacant economic development manager position. Diane Richards was our prior economic development manager. Megan started in November or December of last year. I can't recall now. And very happy to have her as well. Another staff person that transitioned to another department was Amber Sayasit. You may remember Amber as well. She transitioned to replace Megan's old position in the port and city manager's office. So Amber is now in the city manager's office taking over those duties. And to replace Amber, our department hired Lori Ledesma, who, as many of you may recall, Lori was a senior clerk in the city clerk's office. Lori started with our department last week, again, as a new program manager in the community investment division of our department. So you can see a lot of staff changes, a lot of new faces, a lot of shuffling around within the city. But we're all excited and hoping that we can limit those staff changes and just continue on with the work that we have. That completes my report.
Well, let me just say on behalf of all of us, welcome Tanya, congratulations Newbie, and it kind of blows my mind that we're a big enough city to need a parking division.
Indeed.
I will request an email sent out to us with the new staff with the responsibility and the contact information.
Yes, we can do that. I think that's a great idea. Thank you.
And I have other comment that we heard about CBD program and some other issues come up before us with the housing and development. So is Pheasant Club is not under our purview to discuss what the plan is or how our recommendation is for that project? I haven't heard anything.
Yeah, the redevelopment of the Pheasant Club does fall within the purview of this commission because this commission is the Economic Development and Housing Commission. So I anticipate staff bringing items related to that once we get proposals. I would imagine that before we take any proposals to the city council, staff will be coming to the Housing Commission to present those proposals. But I will let Tracy know that that was a question from the commission, and perhaps we can send out an email clarifying if there's going to be any additional information that will be brought to the commission related to the Pheasant Club.
But I'm sorry. To me, that whole thing is done at that point. I'm talking about the input, the proposal, or the comments, but now everything is set in place. I think we are just waiting for the enchilada to be eaten.
I think what Commissioner Singh is saying is there a way for us to weigh in on like RFP guidelines, or is that already out?
So the RFP guidelines have already been published. So the RFP is out already. The next step would be once proposals are submitted to the department, those will be reviewed and a recommendation made. So that would be, I would think, the next step in the process and where this commission may see information on the proposals and which one is being recommended to the city council for approval. Again, I can bring up the, this to our director And we can probably try to get some information out, clarify, what the roles and responsibilities are for the commission and where some of that input related to the Pheasant Club may.
And as I'm sure you know, I mean, that particular site has a lot of interest in the community. And one of our roles is to help educate, the people that we come in contact with about what's going on with the city. And so it would be helpful to know how those RFP guidelines came about, what input was given from whom, because lots of people have misconceptions and questions about it, and it's helpful for us to know that information so we can help educate the public.
Certainly. Yeah, we'll get some information out to you. I know that there was a workshop at the city council before the RFP was put out on the street. There was at least that communication with council. And like I said, I'll make sure that we get information out to the commission on, where in the process the.
One more.
Thank you.
And can you gave us the website. Did you say TURDENCOM.com?
No, that's TURDENCOAM.com. So 2 comes at the end.
Got it. Thank you.
Great. Any other commissioner communication?
Just want to say, very engaging first commission meeting of the new year. So thank you. Very interesting.
Yes, indeed. Really appreciate it, and I am looking forward to having everybody sitting up here on the same level next time. All right, with that, we need a motion to adjourn.
Commissioner Rodriguez submits a motion to adjourn.
Commissioner Kemp, second.
All right, we have a move and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And I just want to again thank the city staff for staying here so late after you worked a full day with us. So we really appreciate it. Okay, done.